For this still life, we are using this reference picture, the 3 pumpkins. I'm using blue and black for the preliminary drawing stage, and a small brush, preferably a flat or a round. I like to keep my reference right next to where I'm drawing, just so I can, see what I'm doing. So either print it out or look at your screen like I'm doing. And what I'm going to do is I'm looking to see where that back drapery hits the table. And I'm just lightly using my blue and black mixed together. I'm lightly drawing it in. Now it's wet. I have a little bit of water on my brush, not a lot, because I don't want it to drip. You can see that I'm looking at the negative space around the pumpkin. So I'm not doing like a perfect circle first. I'm actually looking at each section of the negative space and measuring it out. Like how far down is that pumpkin from the top? How far from the side? How far is that little stem at the top from the top of the canvas and the image? How wide is my pumpkin? Those are questions that you should ask yourself as you're working. Now you can see I've added too much water. So right now I'm just going to take a paper towel and an easy cleanup. I can just wipe it away. If you want to draw it in with pencil, you can. This is just another way of doing things. So I can soften my lines too when it's in the stage. I'm not drawing super hard lines. So I know that the table goes all the way across, so I'm just kind of adding in that line for reference. And the 2 green squashes are on the right side, and I know that the far squash goes at an angle, so I'm drawing the angle out first before I go and do the outlines, because I will paint over any of these lines. I'm going so light. So the second squash lines up quite well with the middle of the pumpkin. So I'm just drawing where the end would be, and then I'm observing from my image the curve. So it's a lot of measuring and observing as you work. And then the back of the squash tilts towards the one behind it, which is a little tricky, but if you take your time to observe it, it'll be easier. What's nice about something like this, they're organic forms, so they're not going to be perfect. So they may be a little misshaped, and that'll be just part of the image. And I'm using a little bit of a darker paint, just to, the blue and black really mixed together, just to kind of mark things up. Seeing where the edge of my pumpkin flows over into that squash. And I'm always looking at the negative space, the space that goes around it. So, there's this almost triangle form between the 3 objects together. And that will help me find the edge of that back squash. I'm looking at the silhouette of this as I work. Kind of get an estimate for it. You can always adjust things too. This is a very loose stage. So try to, find your way around a bit. Now I'm finding some of my lines, I'm being a little bit more concrete here. Especially with those 2 forms, I know that they need to separate a bit. And that's my line for my background that disappears really behind that back squash. And there's a really dark shadow that comes off the pumpkin right there. So I'm just going to take my black and really push it in. It'll help me set up my value structure, because that's really the darkest dark on the image, is this shadow right here. That way I have 2 values right now. And there's one more shadow. That's the shadow below this front squash. I'm not going to put it in too much, just kind of get an idea where that edge is. But I can put in these two back shadows on the right side. They come together, and the front one is closer to us, therefore it's darker. So you'll see a bit more black towards the object, and then it'll diffuse into blue. And you can see I don't have a ton of paint on my brush. I'm working really loosely with it because I will be working in layers, and I want each layer to dry a little bit quicker. So the first layer will be thinner. And then this back shadow connects to the front shadow, except it's a little bit lighter and it's a little bit bluer. Right now I'll just kind of put it similar in value, but a little bit more blue. And that'll help me, again, set up a little bit of that value structure. And then there's a shadow behind that is the curtain, and that's really pretty much black. So I have some really basic values right now, which help me with my drawing as well because I can see the shapes. And I'll reevaluate that. It comes down a little bit less than what I had it. Again, you can change anything that you put on here. This is a very early stage of drawing. Small shadow up there. The light is coming from the left side.